So welcome to the board meeting. This is 5 o'clock, our 5 o'clock board meeting, September 3rd, 2024. We're going to start by indicating who's here. Clark, go ahead.
Clark Nelson.
Kristen.
Connie Burgess.
Kim Chandler. Julie Jackson.
Todd Hopper.
Ben Horsley.
And Karen, you're online. Can you chime in?
Yeah, Karen right there. I'm here.
Thanks, Karen. And Nicole McDermott. All right, first up on our agenda is our athletic interscholastic info. We've had a chance to look at these reports, so we're going to invite you guys, come on up, and we're just going to talk about, this is our report that we have due about our Title IX, mostly our Title IX compliance, so.
Could I interject on this?
Go ahead.
As they find their seats, this is an annual legislative requirement that we provided. There's some context that I've given a few of you in person, but I'll let these fine folks explain. I did want to excuse Mitch Nerden, our Chief of Staff. He is out at the teacher DLI meeting that was scheduled this afternoon with some of our other folks, and so he'll be coming in a little bit late, so I'm going to ask Leslie to save his spot if she doesn't mind.
Board President McDermott, members of the board, Superintendent Horsley.
You pull that microphone just a little bit closer to you. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Converse and I are excited to be here, and we appreciate the opportunity to present the Student Participation in Interscholastic Sports report for 2024. You've received an electronic copy of this report already, along with your life-size booklet, and when you get to be my age, you might appreciate the larger print.
Have readers.
Yeah. And to go ahead and to summarize the contents of the report, on the first page is the introduction. The introduction includes the following. First of all, it's the legislative requirements of House Bill 420, which requires schools to report the following. Number one, the number and type of interscholastic sports available at the school are categorized by gender. Number two, the number of students competing in gender-designated interscholastic sports at the school, also categorized by gender. Number three, the amount of spending the school devotes to each gender-designated sport is reported to the total amount and per student basis. Number four, the school's efforts in Title IX compliance. Number five, school's action plan to improve Title IX compliance. And in addition to the state requirements, we've also included the total enrollment by school broken down by gender, revenue, transfers, and expenses for each program at each school, expenses per student by location, and each school's self-assessment of their Title IX efforts. Now, as you go through and review the data, the section pertaining to each school, please note that the detailed spreadsheet data is extensive and may require careful consideration, but there's two main points we'd like you to consider. Number one, the column labeled funding the school devoted per student, so that's in the different areas for, if we go ahead and, yeah. So if we take a look right here at Cottonwood, for example, the individual sport boxes that we have here. So if you look all the way to the far right of that column, the column states funding the school devoted per student reflects this only reflects the funding allocated by the school for each sport. It does not reflect fees, donations, fundraising, or anything like that. It's just money donated by the school, allocated by the school, excuse me. And the second thing to consider, that the expenses column, which is just to the left of it, yeah. The expenses column may be complex to interpret as it encompasses all expenses and can show negative figures due to the timing of substantial purchases made in anticipation of the upcoming seasons, as well as carry forward amounts in some instances. For example, if a coach was getting ready to purchase uniforms for the upcoming season, if they waited until the fiscal year ended, the uniforms would never make it on time. And so they have to plan for things like that. The summary at the end of the report is designed to help you locate the information you seek more efficiently, and that's at the very end of the report. And then I would like to draw your attention to the colored pages that include each school's responses to the prompt required by House Bill 420. Specifically, let's go ahead and turn to page 11 and look at the self-assessment which was done by Kearns High School. We feel that Kearns put a lot of, just go to 11, Kearns put a lot of thought into their answers, and even though the scores weren't where we'd like to be, Kearns did an excellent job and has a great plan going forward. So if we take a look at it, the school's self-assessment is based on a 4-point scale, with 4 being the highest rating. Each gray box contains the prompt followed by a description for each scoring level. The lowest box in white summarizes the school's self-rating regarding the question in the gray box. And then if you go down to the bottom, there's 2 boxes at the very bottom. They summarize the school's self-rating regarding they provide the school's description of their efforts. The box on the left is designated for schools that self-assessed of a score of 3 or lower on any of the rubrics. And the right box contains an action plan addressing any discrepancies of more than 10% between male and female participants. And if you see here, Kearns was a little bit over 20%. And you could take a look at the thoughtful steps that were put into place by Kearns High School to help bridge that gap of that number. Most of the schools, if not all, have put in a lot of thought into their plans. And again, the summary page at the conclusion of the report encompasses all legally required information, along with additional insights to facilitate a better understanding of the data provided. We are here to answer any questions you have at this time.
Can I just say thank you? This is amazing that you put this together with all the secondary schools.
Oh, no, we had a great committee, a great Title IX committee, and then Julianne Hamblin and Selena Harrison helped out with the presentation. So, you bet.
I also cannot believe the amount of data that is in here, like magnificent effort for all the people who put all this together. And you know, to me, the data is only helpful in the goal setting that comes after the gathering of the data. So can you talk a little bit about what you'll do with this data from here on out? Like, how will it be utilized to benefit our students?
Okay, so for each year, as the schools submit their data, submit their goals, they are to reflect upon the goals that they made the previous year and to have an opportunity to see, okay, where are we? What can we do better? One of the things what I get to do is, as I get to meet with the different athletic directors or the athletic coordinators, we get a chance to review this as well, to see what they're doing, to see where we can come in to help support where needed.
Mm-hmm. Does the UHSSA see any of this?
I don't think so.
This is internal to us. Could I speak to that? We have a couple of Title IX committees that help us review our facilities and address inequities or concerns that are brought to bear as a result of this report, but all this data is just for us internally. The requirement is that our school board reviews this annually, right? Mm-hmm. With the intent that the school board's going to hold the district accountable to making sure that we're adhering to the law.
And
Yeah.
Superintendent, I can add a little bit, I think, to what Julie is asking, which I think since the beginning of this report creation, we've kind of evolved every year. And last year, the committee, the Title IX committee that addresses specifically athletics, they had great idea sharing. And one of those was creating the rubric to really create some consistency in interpretation of the loose questions that were in the legislation. So they created this rubric, which is really allowing us to look at the data in a clearer way, and it's allowing schools to create these self-assessments and have real action steps. So looking at those 2 boxes at the bottom, you're really going to see what each school is doing in terms of problem solving these issues. So I think the spirit of the legislation really comes out there, where you see them making these movements toward improvement in the different areas, and then Aaron and the committee serve as a sounding board for that.
I feel like if we're going to invest in this much work, we want to make sure that we see outcomes from the work, right? And so I'm really happy to see that I don't know an educator who looks at data and doesn't make adjustments based on the data. Like, we naturally do this as humans anyway. But I would see value as we continue with this to looking at this same data over time and being able to understand trends. When did you say that this law was put into effect? How long have we been gathering this?
I think this is our third year.
The third year. Yeah, because it would be I think it would be of value to me as an educator to look at the trend over time and see if I've been able to make a difference and if what I'm currently doing has changed the data or if it hasn't and if I need to try something else or whatever. So I guess that my big takeaway from this is such great, valuable information, and I think it can impact our kids, and we want to make sure that we are not just following the law, but we're utilizing this to really benefit our kids if we're putting this much work into it anyway, right? And again, thank you so much for all this. This is actually quite inspiring to be able to see that we are looking at this level of how sports are impacting our kids or not impacting our kids, right? Both.
I just got to follow up. You're aware of my question already because I sent it beforehand, but I'm curious how this issue of the discovery data versus the focus data impacts the accuracy of all of the analysis in here, if at all.
So the only data that's drawn from the discovery is the enrollment data, correct? So I think specifically to Cottonwood, because of the Ames program, the prior years included the enrollment of that program. And I think when it was reported by the administration and put into this report, I think that was likely an oversight in not drawing out those two pieces. This year, Focus drew the right information. It does separate them. So I think that the rest of the data comes from a different source, and Aaron can speak to that a little bit.
So the intent is to separate out the Ames students. Is that fair, and is that the right answer going forward, especially given some recent developments at the state school board?
Yes, it should be.
Yeah.
We don't, they're responsible for their own report with respect to their board. So that would be the intent of the legislation.
Will that be true even starting next year when their sponsoring entity is the Granite School District?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, because they will still be considered an independent charter school, even though we are the authorizing chartering entity. I would speak to this challenge with discovery that we've found in other places too, as we've switched over to our new Focus system. We've found the way that data is collected and transferred and all these fun pieces within Focus is much more accurate, much more to our needs. As an educational entity, Discovery was never built to do that. So it's showing some flaws in what we were gathering under Discovery. So you might see that in some other places is my point.
Any other questions?
Can I speak to one more thing?
Sure.
I just wanted to thank this great team for, they spent a tremendous amount of time and frankly, we're benefiting as a large district in the economies of scale, but whenever the legislature passes legislation, it usually comes with some sort of regulatory piece, which requires an immense amount of time. And I guarantee no other district in the state is providing data that actually is helpful and comprehensible, readable, name the adjective. And so I applaud this great group of individuals for putting this together in a way that's actually consumable and can direct our efforts. You're just not going to see that in the other 41 school districts. And so I'm going to throw that brag out for our good folks.
I'll tell you, I did email a question and got an answer, and I appreciate you answering, but I did ask because I was aware that Drill Team is apparently going to become co-ed. I thought it was this year, or it had started last year, but it doesn't start till this year. So that will be listed as a co-ed offering, and then that will up the number of offerings for boys, correct, to 13.
To even it out.
So when something's offered to both boys and girls, if it's only one gender that's using it, then it's counted towards that gender. If it's co-ed, then we can't count that towards the numbers.
Oh, so, but as far as like number of I just was thinking number of interscholastic sports offered to boys, wouldn't that number then go up by one?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, so the offering will go up to 13, okay. So just, that was my question that I had for him. I really loved seeing how the numbers did line up so nicely and pretty when the co-ed accounts, when I noticed that like the boys and girls swim, the boys and girls track, all of those things. Appreciated seeing that, how they distributed that. There's still, I just noticed there's still disparities between some of the sports and and I realize the revenues as well. And I don't know how we improve that, but it just was interesting to see this. But really, we appreciate your hard work on this and everything you guys have done to make this readable. So, thank you.
Aaron, I wonder, this is putting you on the spot. I'm
Okay.
sorry about
No,
that.
you're
but
good.
One of the things that I'm so excited to see that we have so many people participating. I think it's a huge number. And then it occurs to me that this is only the sanctioned sports. Would you mind just listing off, like, I can think mountain bike team,
Oh, yeah. And so
water
there's-
polo, rugby, ultimate
Yeah.
frisbee. What other teams do we have that are not even in here that are
Yes.
connecting our kids to schools?
The ones that you just listed are the ones that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Mountain biking, rugby, water polo, so lacrosse is sanctioned. The ultimate frisbee, and I'm trying to think of anything else, but it's great that that our students have so many opportunities, but this is just that we can track data for.
I certainly do not expect
Yeah.
data for those. No, I just
Hockey.
wanted to
Yeah,
note.
hockey's another.
Oh, hockey, yeah.
Hockey's huge.
I think it's amazing how much sports are a connector for so many kids. And I mean, they're the benefits to all the things that they learn. There's the benefits to the health benefits. But then there's also this piece in which it's kind of hard to quantify how much it's impacting their academic achievement. But am I correct? Every
Yeah.
single one of these kids has to have a certain GPA.
Yeah, there's a state
Participate.
requirement. The state requirement is a 2.0 of the quarter beforehand, and then the individual schools can heighten that if they wish. They could do a 2.8 or what have you, but the general requirement is a 2.0. But there's a lot of great merit to playing, or to participating in athletics, whether it's learning how to get through adversity or how to work with other people, that it carries through life. A lot of my core teaching philosophy is based upon this.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Karen, did you have anything?
No.
Thanks, Karen. All right, thank you so much for being here.
If you do not want to keep your copy of this because you already have one, I'm sure they'd be happy to come and keep those handy in case there's other requests for them.
I mean, as much as I love this, I don't know where I would keep it.
Superintendent Horsley, is this information published somewhere on our website?
It's on our agenda.
I'm wondering for the public.
They should have access.
Does
Don't they
public have access to this on our website?
It will be on our board report when it gets published later today or tomorrow.
All right, we have a capital and construction update. We're going to invite Don, Justin, and Chris to come on up. This is a mini presentation. It's not quite as in-depth as we usually get, but there are a couple things that we needed to cover for some things that we have going on later. So we wanted to make sure we give them a chance to.
Thank you, Board President, and very fair to call it a mini because we've approached this with a couple of points of interest. One, we've had some recent construction completions, schools or segments of schools opening, kids in, and that would be important for you to know. And then there's a budgetary impact on a change order at Cypress that Chris would cover. So with those two major elements, happy to put together this mini presentation, as you call it, and so we'll try to be expeditious as we go through this. So Truman Elementary, their HVAC system is moving forward and on schedule. And so as we'll see in a couple of these slides, again, we're on track to complete by October, which is where we were headed. And a couple of big completion things. We've seen some carpet paint, lighting in the rooms that have been completed. And again, some of the big things like certain fans going in are very important as well. So as you can see, the south classroom wing added some lockers because they lost some storage space for kids in the room, new carpet, coordinating paint, new upgraded LED lights. You can't see those because they happen to be off on this, but a complete upgrade in the classroom environment. The central plant, the main star of the HVAC project is looking well, coming together nicely. And this graphic shows you the sections that are completed. And those remaining blue sections are underway, and those kiddos happen to be out in the relocatables. So they did a swap before school started in, it was kind of late July, early August when the classroom swap happened to get those kiddos on the relo so we could finish up. Do you want to go ahead, Justin? Big and exciting?
Sure. Yeah, we are the opening comment, just wanted to make aware that so many people showed up at Westlake to help the school move in, and it was awesome to see representatives from many of the high schools and junior highs and even some of the elementaries. We had board members there helping. We had district office people. It was just awesome to see people roll their sleeves and help move in. So that was a neat sight. You can see in the photos landscaping, trees, grass. Even this afternoon I was out there, they were watering before the rain, but more grass to the north, so that's exciting to see all the greenery. More of the courtyards coming along. Track there behind on the the back end of the school, or the west side.
Hey, Don, I have a question for you, just as I was looking at the track, which is beautiful, and I love it, and I'm not going to be like jealous that nobody else has that, but nobody else has that. So are we looking at doing that for the rest of our junior highs as well, or what? I'm curious.
Yeah, this particular track is not a true 440 track like we have at the other junior highs. So there's some compromises on this track with the size, shape, et cetera. There is the upgrade to the paved surface and the stripes, the lanes. Again, not competition lanes, more PE related type stuff. When it gets to what can we do for the other schools, the problem that we have at junior highs is exactly the same problem that we have at high schools. When a new one gets built, it gets a couple of new special things that others don't have. And then the question is, can you go back and fix those? So we don't have immediate plans to do any paving on the track. What we didn't want to deal with here was the continued maintenance problem that the cinder tracks present to the custodial teams and grounds teams at the existing junior highs. We've just had degradation, puddles, weeds, et cetera, and we just had the opportunity, since we had both insurance money and federal grant money, to sneak this in at the upgraded cost. So it was more a target of opportunity, not saying that I wouldn't love to have capital to do it every school. We just had the opportunity, given the funding from the feds and from insurance, to not make that maintenance error again. Is that
Nicole, can I speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing that up, Nicole. As I was looking through the pictures, I had the same thought, because here, Westlake and Valley are both in West Valley. And I had complaints about the Valley track, which is pretty worn and torn. It's gravel.
Mm-hmm.
It's just night and day. I'm looking at this nice track and everything. And so kind of out in West Valley, there's this notion that West Valley's the nice school. I mean, that Westlake's the nice rich school, and that Valley's kind of the leftover school. So I understand we're using grants and everything, but when we talk about kind of equal opportunity or equity or whatever, it does create this imbalance. And I'm not saying we shouldn't necessarily use those funds to get the nice track. I'm just saying it's frustrating to me when I have Valley Junior as my school down the road, that its track is just pretty much in disrepair. And so you can easily see how families are drawing those conclusions that we're prioritizing one facility over another.
Absolutely. No, we don't disagree with that sentiment. And there are other schools like a Wasatch and Olympus Junior or a Churchill that don't even have tracks at all. And so there is quite a bit of discrepancy throughout the district. And again, this is something that we would love to correct with additional capital. Again, these improvements do take a hit on our budget. We do have some limited funds. We're currently triaging high-priority, keep buildings open projects. But again, we'd love to establish some sort of, as you saw in Title IX, we love that philosophy. We'd like to do it. It's not an excuse. We are just not funded to do this type of upgrade at every school.
Sure, and I get that. I just wondered if there was any, like, it's on a wish list, I'm hearing, and we'd love to do that as it becomes available.
Yeah, again, we just had this opportunity with the way the funding for that earthquake replacement came through.
I'm assuming that this sod has been put in like in the last couple of weeks.
That field around the track and in between the track has been down for 6-7 weeks, so it's great.
in use.
It's in good shape and used.
Oh, so it's in use?
Yes, the play field is.
Didn't remember it was there
Some of
when I
the
was there.
areas that are around trees and stuff in the front have just gone down, but that heavy use area has been
Yeah,
down the
great.
longest.
Thanks.
More fun photos down the main corridors. You can see the lunchroom tables there and the main entrance with some of the color in the ceiling, acoustical panels, gym floors. Finished working on some of just the trim around there, the acoustical panels in the music room. Some of the tables set up in their classes in the classroom on the right and also in the collaboration space on the left, which is exciting.
And some of those could have been set up by board members. We're not sure.
Sewing lab, vax room, classrooms, science rooms, yeah. And then at this time, there's no change orders that need to come before the board for Westlake.
So Cypress High School,
I'm sorry, can I,
go ahead.
I wonder if there's any feedback yet on the restrooms over there? Because it's kind of a new, to me, I haven't seen
Yeah.
that model, and I love it in theory, so I'm hoping it works in practice.
So does Sarah, the principal, and she's excited from the administrative standpoint about keeping kids safe and vandalism going down. I've not heard a single word, positive or negative, other than Sarah's still very happy. So I think that's a good sign, but
Usually that's
yeah,
positive.
right.
And
Okay.
we're the second or third school in the Wasatch Front to have this bathroom design implemented. The others are up north. And we've heard some positive interactions about them. We haven't been made aware of any negatives with this same bathroom design. So it's an evolution, and let's see how it works.
I love it and can't wait, and I would love to, like, as we go forward, if you have any more input about it, I'd love to hear it.
I'm not going to lie, the glass makes me nervous.
The glass will be frosted a little bit. Again,
It's just the fact that there's glass, and
Oh,
it's a junior high.
thick tempered glass, we have that.
It's junior high.
We understand, feel pretty comfortable with it. A lot of our schools have glass as their, instead of railing. And so this is of the same substance and quality, so I think we'll be okay.
But I love your junior high teacher. Where you from?
What could possibly go wrong at a junior high?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, excellent. So just as a reminder of the board, Cypress High School, the entire thing is being constructed at the same time. And so a little bit different situation than Skyline. So there's progress going on literally across the entire site. Westland has a very large workforce going on out there. So in the performing arts, the motorized rigging is going in now. So, and a lot of the performing art spaces are in great shape. So things are really interesting, exciting. We've got millwork and such going on in a lot of the academic wing. A lot of the things are finalizing in the athletics portion, and then the exterior site. We're in that blessed time of year where we're just trying to get as much of the site work done. As you can see, the lockers in the team area, some of the last panels and stuff, the learning stairs are now poured. The building is taking great shape. For those of you who have seen the Skyline portion of that, Cypress is tracking very, very well. Like I said, the operable partition in the auditorium, the motorized rigging on the stage, there's just a tremendous amount of progress going on across the board. So we're very excited about its progress and its opening next year. So there are two change orders going before the board, and they're a slightly different nature. So has been explained to the board a few times, and I believe we even talked a little bit about it, if not last board report, the board report before that. In the contract with Westland at Cypress, there in 2021 there was an escalation clause built into the contract where the district was cognizant of the price increasing and to try to put a governor on the speed at which the accelerator was going down, if that's an appropriate analogy. They built into a clause where the contractor, the subcontractor involved, had to absorb the first 12% of any changes due to material pricing. And then the contractors also had to have a written notice to the district of the increase along with the supporting documentation. And then they had to purchase it within a time period related to the master schedule. And if they didn't do that, then they weren't able to participate. This particular thing is the marker boards, and just a brief explanation. Marker boards literally have gone up over 100% since the bid time in 2021. When we were approaching this, and we've been tracking this for a while, they actually was well over 100%, even after they absorbed the first 12%. And in addition to that, Westland, in their due diligence as a outstanding K-12 builder, had reported that they'd had quite a few issues with the specified product at other schools in terms of the quality was not meeting the standards that the district went. And so in order to try to mitigate this, we did several different things. First of all, Westland went out and got bids from 3 different contractors. The district actually went and tried to get pricing, maybe just even pull it out of the contract to mitigate some of the cost. We went through a lot of due diligence in order to try to get the cost down. We're actually substituting a Claridge product in place of the original Morrico product in order to mitigate the cost of this escalation increase. But even with that, it's still $61,000. At one point in time, it was well north of 100, I think, or close to it. Does that sound right? Pretty close. I got my fact checkers in the background. I feel like, this is, it's per the terms of the contract, and yet even outside of the terms of the contract, Westland in particular has done a lot to try to mitigate this cost. The district team within the procurement has done a lot to mitigate the cost, and this is the end result. So any questions on that change?
Just, do you know what the raw material is or the component is that's driving the escalation so significantly?
It's aluminum, and I don't know what a polymer material. I think it's more of an industry thing. I know that at least one whiteboard supplier went out of business a couple of years ago, and there's kind of been a lockdown on it, but it's not, it feels like it's almost a workforce issue as much as it is a material, because you're like aluminum. I mean, it's like, go recycle a few more cans, right? I'm not trying to be flippant about it. It just, there's not some special super secret sauce that I feel like is driving that. But the reality is it's been well over 100%. Is that a fair thing, Don, to say? You had something you were going to say.
We've noticed the cost escalation in our standard warehouse orders for whiteboards as well. Clark, I cannot give you a logical, well-tracked reason as to why the costs have gone up. I do not, and I think I'm going to paraphrase a little what I heard coming from Chris over here. We don't think it's material related. I think there's some opportunistic vendors out there as the market has begun to shrink, as we're starting to see greater monopolies. This is the cost of quote unquote doing business that they've placed upon us. We're not happy about it, and we don't see logic behind it.
Thank you.
Fair?
I was going to use the term piratical, but I think your response was probably more appropriate for a public.
So I have a question. Are we going to probably see this with other materials for the school? I mean, is this going to be now, or is this just maybe a isolated?
We've seen some of those earlier,
Product.
right? But again.
We had the lightings last summer, right?
Yeah, so we've seen some of that, but the way the contract is written, there's a process to go through. And Westland, of course, tried to acquire many of the products well in advance.
Right.
And so we're trying to limit that by the contract nature. And of course, Westland doesn't like to necessarily pass on costs if they can find an equal or something at the same price. As this project winds down, we're hoping we will prognosticate that the future holds less opportunity for price increases because most of the material is either acquired or installed. Does that mean it won't ever happen again? No, but as progress on the building continues, we have less things to buy.
Okay, that's why I was kind of wondering, like, how close are we?
Kitchen equipment is next, right?
Okay.
That's what we're working through right now, and we have been working through for a while. But once again, you want to talk about an industry where it's shrinking and there's a monopolistic nature. Specialized kitchen equipment is in that same boat. We went through it last year with lighting, and that was a fairly significant amount that had been batted back and forth. But really, the district here has tried both with Westland in a partnership and outside within our own procurement resources to mitigate this quite a bit. And I really feel it's been brought down pretty close to half of what it was just by us trying to, but we're also out of time with it. You know, we have this window that we're trying to finish the school and get done. And so that's why we feel like all of the due diligence has been done in our recommendation for approval on this. So I don't feel like there's any special product. I feel like it's an industry nature situation, so.
Thanks.
So any other questions on the material
Yeah.
on the material change?
If we are watching, we're seeing prices for this particular product go up over time. You mentioned, Don, that Westland has been trying to procure some things in advance. Why not this? Why was this not something we tried to get before the price went up too high?
So some of this price escalation's gone on for years, and it's a storage issue. For example, the district has procured huge amounts of flooring and furniture and other resources I don't know how many facilities we actually had the flooring set.
That's a great example. I like that. So we did a cost-benefit analysis on flooring, and we found that the fees associated with storing and acquiring early reduce the overall cost, and so we ordered the product early. There are some things that you just can't keep continuing to store because it's more expensive to store them or to lose warranty and buy an extended warranty than it is just to buy them later. I think that's a mindset that we've tried to go about, but I'm quite certain that we couldn't have bought everything for the building on day one. This could just be one of those.
And there's no way in the market where you can enter into a contract for these things early on, even if they're delivered later?
Oh, no, they don't. Yes, they'll charge you a premium, and then they're guessing, is their premium going to be higher than what they're going to sell it for? We've gone down that analysis before, and again, that's why flooring is the great example, because they projected out the cost to procure later, and they came back, because we have a very good relationship with one of the vendors. They said, no, you're going to do it now because here are all the memos saying that the price escalations will continue at this rate, at this rate, at this rate. And so we bought early, and their forecasts have held true. The product that we're buying to refloor schools now followed the exact same escalation pattern that they thought it would.
And so and once again, we weren't necessarily part of those initial decisions, but at least the cost benefit analysis in terms of some product and just having the space, on some of our other projects that we manage outside of this district, we've actually, during the pandemic especially, we find old empty storefronts and rent them because we weren't sure what the product availability is going to be. Some of that curve has flattened out. I don't think people are like, oh, costs are coming down. I don't think anybody here would look out there and say costs are coming down. I think the rate at which they're accelerating is flattened. But, you know, I do think that the district made a lot of effort. It's just, you know, this is a $300,000+ contract. Does that sound right? In terms of where do you store $300,000+ worth of marker boards? And so that's why, what? For 4 years until you're getting to a point where you can put them in a classroom. So, you know, once again, is it optimal? I don't know if it's optimal, but is it been dramatically managed? I would say that both Westland and the school district have diligently worked to manage this escalation.
I wanted to add, plus, I think this is technology, and so didn't you say these are the smart boards?
No, these are just your
These are
plain old
whiteboards.
classroom whiteboard, which is why Clark was asking the question, what's the
see.
magic sauce in a whiteboard? There isn't any, right? It's just, and just as a prime example in talking about that with some of the technology changes, when these schools were designed back in 1819, they were short throw projectors, right? And now we've gone to the smart television technology, and we've paid for those upgrades to bring it into what a 2025, 26 school operates as opposed to an 18, 19 school operates. So, you know, some of those, but this is just your plain everyday average whiteboard. So, any other questions on that before I proceed to the other change? Okay, so the other change is a little different. It relates to how the blinds and locations operate at the school, and to bring it more in how the blinds operate at Cypress. I'm not sure of how all the design things. Originally, the blinds were designed to be operated in a classroom with a keyed device and a certain power requirement, and we're going now to ones that could be managed with a touchscreen interface. And also, I believe there's some also building management system controls associated with that. And there were quite a few windows that got missed in the initial design sequence. Go ahead.
I would not call it missed. I would say that as security, the nature of security changed, the advice coming from security experts were to add a couple of additional locations for security purposes, and that's what we did. So there's an add, not because it's a miss, but because the state law started to evolve, we responded to what we were seeing coming down the pipeline as far as security response. I think that's a more accurate
Okay.
description.
I will stand and take the correction, for sure. Anyway, as you can see in the board note, there were quite a few windows that the obscuring of the outside view into the teaching spaces was obscured intentionally. It does integrate the system somewhat with a building management system, particularly in controlling the energy. I know it might sound crazy even with a double pane window, but energy gain through a blind actually dramatically helps save energy costs in a building. So, which is part of the reason why some of these controls and other things are being integrated with the building management system. Yeah, it's the same one that controls the lights being on in a classroom. It's the same building management system that sets the set point on the thermostat, no matter how many times you push the button up or down in a classroom. So this process has been going on since last fall, just kicking it back and forth and making sure that all the due diligence was done. Westland got some additional information. Elevate made quite a few additional corrections and changes to the control systems and stuff. And then over the last, I would say 2 months, there's been back and forth in a very much a due diligence operation, some narratives and additional comments and additional fixing of fine-tuning of the pricing, brought it down to its current request. It is a fairly significant change, but it does allow the building to operate as the school operations team feels like it should. So thus our recommended, I don't have any input on whether or not, or how the building should be designed, but in terms of the design that meets the needs, this change has been fully vetted by our team, and we're recommending approval.
Just a question, will teachers in the classroom still be able to close the blinds, or like if they're going to show a movie?
There's a touchscreen interface, yep.
In their classroom,
In their-
not, okay.
Yes. When he mentioned scene control,
Yeah.
if you put the AV on, it has sensors that say, hey, am I light, too light, dark, too dark, or you can do it manually.
Okay.
So it's got a lot of gizmo to it.
Right.
Codes these days are complex.
Yes, and then so, for example, though, when you have the afternoon sun shining through on those west side classrooms, the blinds are gonna come down, right? The teacher can still say, oh no, I want more light in it, and can go over and touch the touch screen on it. But they had a keyed interface before, which is kind of a kludgy, older technology kind of a thing, and it's one more set of keys, and I know that in my experience in other districts and stuff, that people lose those keys and then they can't control the blinds as well, so.
Okay.
I'm sure that never happens. I will stand corrected in maligning anybody losing their keys on anything, so. Anyway, that's the situation in terms of just an operational change to the building, and this is also much more aligned with what the shade control system, particularly on all those lovely west side facing the sun classrooms on the academic building at Skyline. So.
And so they've used these, this is the same product that Skyline installed, correct?
Yeah,
That
it's
we
the
installed
same,
at
it's
Skyline?
the
Okay.
same design and function.
Design and
I'm not sure if
function,
it's
okay.
exactly the same controllers or not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions related to that? Thank you. Did you want me to give a report at Skyline? Just, we're in the academic building. Everyone jump up and down, shout. So if you miss seeing the old academic building go down, it's too late, it's gone. We're in the footings and foundation stage. Common space, there's been school going on. It's crazy. There's quite a few items of punch and minor completion items that we're still going through, but as you can see, there's the orchestra pit, which is the deepest, darkest hole, the footings that are being excavated for that. We had some concerns with some of the footings, but we had some further geotechnical investigation, and we're good to go and moving forward. And those footings are going on all over the entire site, so the performing arts, once again, like I said, if you ever want to see what it's going to look like at Skyline, you can go to the Cypress one, and it's looking pretty amazing. I don't think I've ever seen a high school, certainly not in the last 15 years, build those kind of performing arts spaces, so they're pretty amazing. And the netting, I can say, after an interesting summer of footing and other issues and very tight spaces, the netting at both the turf and the grass field is complete. The turf has been restored to its proper location, and all the netting poles on both fields are complete. And we don't have any.
Sorry, yeah, no change order. I was just going to mention that one of the exciting things that's happened, I was there the second or third day that school was in session, and at lunchtime, and the commons, the lunch cafeteria was full. The common space was full. The learning stairs were full. People were outside eating lunch outside those glass doors. And I've heard traditionally Mitch just walked in. Traditionally, I've heard we have 180 to 200 students that stay for lunch. It was jam-packed, and it was exciting. And maybe there's the excitement about the new school and the new cafeteria, and we have a new chef there. Or maybe no one wants to lose their parking stall. Whatever the reason, it was exciting that students were staying on campus, and hopefully that curbs starts a new trend. It's cool to stay at school and eat your lunch versus run to Wendy's or wherever. So that was exciting to see all the kiddos there at lunch.
I have been so excited to see that building filled with kids. It's like you spend all this time creating vision and thinking about how it would look and how it would work, and then all of a sudden they're there and it's working the way you thought it would. And it's a real tribute. I see a lot of things that were ideas from the community that are there that are working unbelievably. And the exciting thing to me was that our old Skyline building did not have really big areas to connect. Like, it was really, even at lunch, there was the cafeteria, but it wasn't like there were places to like even sit and work as a group or anything. And the new building is, to me, it's all about safety and connection and collaboration. And it really seems like it's working there. It's been a hard transition for our teachers. Shout out to them, because you get there and my printer isn't working. Or like, oh, we only have 2 copy machines that are working. Or, so many things like that have gone on. Or, oh, my space is actually smaller than my old space was, and I wasn't expecting that. There are a lot of expectations that they've had to kind of work out, even though they're super excited about the building. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Chris, and Dawn and Justin, I think after only being in the building for a few weeks, there are some lessons learned already that possibly could be applied to Cypress. So is there an effort to gather a list of those? And also, I say this whilst also saying I'm not interested in a lot of change orders. But I just wonder if you can speak to that.
Yeah, and I'll let more color commentary follow. There is an active list. We've had discussions with Cypress. We actually have a couple of meetings scheduled with some internal folks as well as their administration to talk about some of the tweaks that are cost-effective, are meaningful, or worthwhile on lessons learned. It's not a complete retool of the building, but there are some that are attainable at a reasonable price that we'd like to accommodate. So this has been happening, and that's why there's always been a data share back and forth between the 2 projects. If Cypress is ahead and they figured out how to fix an issue, we bring it back up to Skyline and vice versa. So we're doing a lot of those things.
Just to echo what Don was just saying, we literally have a meeting every Tuesday where we sit down with the design team to make sure that we're coordinating some of these. And then also in our district internal coordination meeting on Wednesdays, we have some of those same conversations. And from an operational standpoint, I am not in a participatory mode where the staff are communicating, oh, this is how we are operating this new academic building. Obviously that would be something that I would highly encourage. It's in terms of just how staff chooses to operate the building, to share those lessons learned back and forth. But certainly things that we've discovered, particularly in the performing arts area that isn't built at all at Skyline, we're definitely working on making sure that those changes or needed thought processes are occurring for the Skyline portion. And certainly now that academics is complete. And if you remember how they're building Cypress, it started, athletics and performing arts and kind of working towards each other through the academic wing. Mm-hmm. And so there's been those opportunities to play catch up back and forth between the 2 schools. But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I highly encourage us to figure out a way to get feedback from the actual staff who are using the rooms to the people who are designing and putting things in the building. It's a tricky thing to do without, to get the things that are helpful without getting people to nitpick about their new building or to complain about things that we can't change, because we want people to be excited about their new building too, without going and saying, tell me all the negative,
So Matt, one of BDK's, the guy up on site, up at Skyline, and Ashton, our guy on site, are working every day through a list that's being compiled at the school. They could be wish list or not working. And our team go through and let's solve the not working, unfinished, not complete, not whatever, get those things per contract taken care of. The wish list we're pushing off because we're not, right now, we don't have money and we're not looking at making major changes, but we are reviewing that to see are some of these, worth talking about on a future project or even Cypress? Or is it, more teacher preference, which we don't typically design for teacher preference. It's, curriculum based. And so we look at those, but we're trying to make sure all of the punch list and unfinished or non-working items are taken care of first, and then we go back and check the others. So there is a list being compiled.
And our staff members know, I mean, they can find that wish list.
As you know, Brody and Sid are, the advocates.
Brody and Sid are
Yes.
taking it.
They know if they go to Brody and Sid, it gets to us.
They govern that list.
Yeah.
And work closely with Ashton and with Matt. to
That's
make-
great.
They, Matt actually has an office in the building, and
Oh.
Ashton lives there as his second home most of the time. So they know where to find Sid and Brody, and they know where to find Matt. And, yeah, so, in fact, most of the time, if I go there with a visit, he's with one or the other, they're with one or the other of them. So we have that strong liaison with the staff. And then, as you know, Sid and Brody are also part of the community council building committee.
Yeah.
So we,
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Matt is the, what's his actual, BDK
yeah,
director
he's our
of?
BDK project manager who's on site.
Yeah, he's in charge of Skyline, and I didn't know he had an office in there.
No,
That's
he
great.
has an office in Skyline, so, in the admin wing, so they know where to find him.
Thanks for bringing that up, Julie. And I did visit Cypress last week and talked to the principal about that exact issues you're talking about, and he actually was putting together a list of things that he had a meeting up at Skyline and got to tour the new facility and made a list of some things that he noticed and that others had talked to him about, hey, if you're doing this here, or if you can have a chance to, So I know he's probably being in contact with you.
We've seen
Yeah.
that, and I've got it almost in, ready to send, it's in draft form, but almost all of those are a matter of just getting some bugs worked out. There's one big one they did request, and I'm afraid we're going to probably say no, because it would be a costly one, and that is to make the media center bigger. And I just don't think we can do that in a reasonable fashion. As far as we are along, especially with our Westland folks in the back sitting there, they don't want to hear that. That one's probably a no. But the rest of those are being checked off and have been included in the drawings.
Thanks for checking on that.
You're welcome.
And also, I know a couple board members have said we probably should tour Cypress again, and maybe after the Skyline ribbon cutting, where we've seen it fresh, maybe we can do another tour with board members of the Cypress facility and see where we're at and have fresh in our minds what the finished product, for the academics for sure.
We can look to calendar that, and rest assured it will rain the day before.
Yeah, and it will be a little less dirty than the last time you
That'll be
walked
great.
through there.
As long as there's cookies, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Cookies are arranged already. Not, and then, like you just mentioned, there is the ribbon cutting on the 13th
Yeah, for
for
Skyline.
the Skyline Academic.
And the 10th, this next Tuesday at Westlake, on the 10th, and 13th on Friday at Skyline. So a busy week next week.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, you guys. All right, we have need of an executive session for the purpose of litigation and character and competence of an individual. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of character and competence of an individual
And litigation.
and litigation.
Sorry.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to move into executive session for the purpose of litigation and character and competence of an individual. This is a roll call vote. Karen, we'll start with you since you're online.
Karen Linder, yes.
Clark Nelson, yes.
Chris Nguyen, yes.
Connie Burgess, yes.
Kim Chandler, yes.
Julie Jackson, yes.
And Nicole McDermott, yes. Thank you. Give us just one